Hello, travelers and monster catchers abound. I'm Stella Ferris, and I am back for an episode of the Monster Catchers Journal podcast. I am finally over the veil too, and I hope that you guys will enjoy. Today's entry comes not from the plains of some mysterious and unforsaken place, but from the outer reaches in the void around Nibiru. Luan Academy's observatory dome was buzzing. I was supposed to be on a dorm duty, but then Professor Orion intercepted a weak but ancient signal, one nobody could trace, one that pulsed like a heartbeat. It's glyph energy, but it's coming from orbit. I volunteered before he could finish his sentence. You always dive head first, fine, but take a glyphid and a helmet, or don't come back. Zena helped me board our cramped single-seater space glider. We barely use anymore. I brought my weakest glyphs. I didn't expect to battle anything until I saw it. Floating among shattered satellites was Zyntronaut. Curled into a fetal position, its body shimmered with constellations, and a cracked visor covered his face. It didn't look hostile. It looked scared. I reached out with my mind. That's when it struck me. It wasn't just a space glyph. It was part of space itself. But before I could connect, Zyntronaut jolted awake, and panic made it flare. The debris storm hit like a tidal wave. Zyntronaut fired a gravity reverse blast, sending my glider spinning. Oxygen levels dropped. I tried deploying my glyphid to contain it, but nothing worked. That's when I did something stupid. I opened my hatch. If I needed trust, I'd earn it with the vulnerability of me not having any air. I floated towards it. No weapons, no shield, no mask, just me. I signed a symbol with my hand. I'm not here to hurt you. Zyntronaut blinked. Then it dissembled its suit. Tiny particles drifting and wrapping around me like a nebula. I gasped and I could breathe. We drifted together, minds linked. I saw its memories. Abandonment. Silence. Orbit after orbit. It wasn't lashing out. It was protecting what little it had. I reached into my satchel, fingers trembling, and I pulled out a glyph pyramid. Instead of throwing it, I simply held it in my palm open. Zyntronaut looked at it, then me, and without a fight, it went in. The glyphid pulsed once and sealed. But on the Luan Academy docks, Zena caught me stumbling out of the glider, the suit still shimmering along around me, like a second skin. Are you wearing it? I smiled. No, it's wearing me too. A quiet celestial creature is what I had caught, who floats like it's underwater. And its form, too, it fuses with its catcher to create a biometrical suit capable of space travel, radiation defense, and zero gravity control. It has a lot of really cool abilities like void pulse, gravity reverse, astro shield, final drift. But we're not here for that. We're here to talk about how I caught this glyph. And in order to do that, we got to go back to the beginning. Now I've caught a dozen of glyphs, some with clever traps, others with quick thinking, and a few with some dumb luck, and others, I've caught with a snare that was very easy to catch with, but some glyphs are a little harder. And none of them mattered when I met Zyntronaut, because nothing I knew worked, not at first. It started with a signal, faint and consistent. It pinged through the Luon Academy's observatory in a way no normal Glyph would register. Professor Orion said it was an old Vel frequency, likely a false echo. But I knew better. I could feel it. Whatever it was alive and alone. The catch, the signal was coming from orbit. So, what did I do? I did what I always do when logic says no. I volunteered. Zena protested, Orion tried to ground me, but something in my chest tugged towards that signal, and when I felt something strongly, that strongly anyways, it usually means a glyph is waiting. I launched solo, no backup, just a janky rover pod and 3 basic glyphs that couldn't handle space combat if their cores depended on it. The moment I broke through the upper sky, I felt it, a presence, not malevolent, just tired, drifting through a graveyard of shattered satellites and forgotten tech, was a small glowing figure, Zyntronaut. His body shimmered like stardust trapped inside of glass, and it wore what looked like a living suit. It didn't attack, it just stared. So I reached out and I said, I'm here for you. Not to take you, to know you. And I'm not going to hurt you. Then the storm hit. The satellite rings shifted, debris flared toward me. I tried deploying a defense glyph. Bad ideas. Zyntronaut mistook the motion as aggression and retaliated. My pod spun out, life support dropped, and for the first time in a long time I panicked. I ripped off my tether, no weapons, no glyphs, just me in a half-functioning suit, drifting in silence. That's when I realized Zyntronaut was scanning me. My fear, my honesty, my heartbeat, so opened my arms. I opened my arms. If you want to leave, go. But if you want someone to understand, I'm here. And that's when it moved, slowly like a comet, adjusting course. The outer shell of its suit unraveled and spiraled toward me, and instead of striking, it merged with me. I didn't just catch it, I became its second form. Why it worked? Well, I didn't overpower Zyntronaut. I didn't outsmart it. I trusted it first. Completely. Zyntronaut had been orbiting Nibiru for years, maybe decades after a failed sync with a long-dead explorer. It wasn't looking for a master, it was looking for someone who would listen, not control. And I gave it that. Zyntronaut is more than a glyph. It's a companion in the truest sense. Its form doesn't activate with a command. It responds to my intention. When I'm afraid, it shields. When I'm falling, it lifts. When I'm silent, it hums softly, like a lullaby from the stars. Sometimes I still float with it in orbit, just us. No agenda, no noise, just being. Now, in the beginning, you've seen how I said that, everything was all good, everybody was happy, the glyph was easy to catch. That was far from the truth. The glyph was really hard to catch, and Orion was mad. When I got back to the Luon Academy docks, still glowing faintly from Zyntronaut's merge, I expected a celebration. Maybe a stunned silence, a handshake, even Zena cracked a breathless laugh when she saw the Glyph suit peel off of my skin like a falling aura. But then came Professor Orion. I had barely stepped off the ship when he stormed down the ramp with the fury of a star going supernova. You reckless, stubborn child, what are you thinking? I was thinking maybe you'd say thank you for recovering a lost ether-type glyph from orbit. He didn't smile. He didn't even blink. You think catching a spacebound glyph by removing your helmet mid-orbit is bravery? That's not bravery, that's suicide, wrapped in a defiance. Zyntronaut hovered behind me, silent, watching. I felt its worry ripple through the link. It didn't like this. You could have destabilized it, caused a chain reaction. If its suit core had failed mid-bonding, do you know what that would have done to your mind? Or your body? His voice cracked. That's when I realized he wasn't just angry, he was scared. You wouldn't have gone after it, Orion. No one would have. It was alone. He turned away for a moment, his hands trembling, then he faced me again. but his voice dropped low. I've lost students before, Stella Ferris. Brilliant ones. Ones who thought their instincts outranked their training. You're not invincible, no matter how many glyphs choose you. He didn't suspend me. He didn't even write me up. He just walked away, coat flapping like a storm cloud. But I understood something new that day. Sometimes people yell because they care too much to whisper. Zyntronaut floated closer and wrapped a light tendril around my wrist. It didn't need words. Neither did I. But that's not where the argument ended, not by far. After Orion turned his back on me and walked towards the east corridor of the docks, fists clenched and shoulders tight. Most students would have let him go, but I've never been like most students, you know? You don't get to storm off, Orion, I called after him. He didn't stop, so I chased after him, boots echoing through the cold stone hallway. You're angry, fine, but be angry. But I caught Zyntronaut. It's not hurting anyone, it's helping me. And I know you care, but you're treating me like a mistake instead of someone who just made history. He stopped in front of the security door and placed his hand on the scanner. You want to know why I'm angry? Yeah, I snapped. I'd love to. The door slid open with a hiss. He stepped inside, a dimly lit chamber filled with old containment pods, sealed, silent, and covered in dust. I followed, my heart slowing as I saw what was inside of them. A glyph suit, just like Zyntronaut, but cracked, burned, empty. Her name was Sela. I was her mentor. She was bright, stubborn like you. She found the first Zyntronaut prototype 15 years ago. Thought she could sync with it. Thought trust would be enough. He touched the glass of the pod like it was still warm. It didn't work. The bond misfired. It crushed her lungs before we could even patch the suit. I stared at him, words drying up in my throat. I watched her die thinking she failed, but she didn't. I did. I should have stopped her, trained her harder, made her wait. I finally understood it wasn't about me being reckless. It was about him being afraid to watch someone else vanish again. I'm not Sela. He looked at me, really looked at me for the first time since I returned. No, you're not. But you're just as important. He sighed and rubbed his eyes like the weight of the years was finally catching up. I'll make it official. Zyntronaut is now registered under your name. You'll be its handler. But from now on, you run these missions by me, every one. We didn't hug, we didn't apologize, but we walked out of that room side by side, and that was enough. And that's really all that happened with my teacher, Orion, but anyways, you know, it's funny, people think catching a glyph is the hard part. They imagine the chase, the battle, the danger. But what they don't realize is the hardest part comes after, when it's time to decide where the glyph truly belongs. The first few days after catching Zyntronaut were strange. Not in a bad way, just different. Most new glyphs either race around the sanctuary in a hyperactive daze or burrow into a cozy den and sleep for days. But Zyntronaut floated. I had set up a quiet space for it in the observatory chamber of my pyramid house. It had glowing glass walls, a simulated star map, and even gravity diffusers, so it could drift like it did in orbit. Senna helped me line the floors with ether crystals to help it recharge. It should have been perfect, but Zyntronaut never touched the ground, never made a sound. He just circled the room like it was trapped in its own private orbit. A gentle hum filled the air every time it passed the window. It wasn't unhappy, it wasn't in pain, but it wasn't thriving. Meanwhile, Reaperfish, my long-time sand swimming fish scout and battle companion was starting to wear out. He tried to hide it. Of course, he always does. But I could tell. He used to burst from the Glyph I like a whirlpool of muscle and shadow. Lately, he just eased out, swaying a little before pulling himself together. His shadow fin dragged, his eyes looked dull. His attacks still landed, but with less force and less focus. During one sparring session, he misfired a death curl and hit a tree. He didn't even growl. He just floated there, panting. Afterwards, I sat beside him near the sanctuary waterfall, where there was a large amount of sand, and scratched behind the frills under his jaw. "You don't have to keep going, I whispered. Reaper Fish made a soft gurgling sound and leaned into my side. He was tired. He needed a break. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the look of Reaper Fish and the look that he gave me when I returned him to his Glyph I, grateful but tired, so tired, and I thought about Zyntronaut, still floating in silence, still orbiting nothing. It hit me like a comet. They were both waiting for me to see it. Zyntronaut didn't belong in the sanctuary, not fully. He needed purpose, motion, connection, and Reaper Fish, he'd already given me years of loyalty in battle. He didn't need to prove anything else. So I made a choice. I opened the vault, took out Zyntronaut's Glyph I, and held it close to my chest. When I summoned Zyntronaut the next morning, I didn't speak. I just stood in the golden light of the pyramid's open dome, arms at my sides. He emerged in silence, light and grass, nebula and shimmer. And then I said softly, "You're not a trophy. You're not a relic. You're my partner now." His eyes brightened. "I want you on the team. Not just when it's space missions. All of it. The travel, the battles, the chaos, the quiet." Zyntronaut didn't answer. Instead, he hovered forward and without warning merged with me again. The Glyph suit wrapped around my frame, humming in sync with my pulse, and this time it didn't feel like a suit. It felt like a handshake. I returned to the sanctuary and knelt beside Reaper Fish's pool of sand. "I'm rotating you out for a while, old friend," I said, tapping his Glyph I gently. "You've earned it. Rest, hunt, float. Do whatever you need. I've got this." He flickered his tail hard once and splashed me with sand, then disappeared into the depths of the dark sand with a quiet purr. My next outing wasn't even a big one, just investigating some odd magnetic spikes near the hollow canyons. Nothing wild. But Zyntronaut was perfect for the job. He stabilized my descent with a microgravity pulse, shielded us from unstable cliff energy, and even deflected a rogue rock beat without my command. But it wasn't about the battle, it was the bond. Zyntronaut wasn't floating anymore, he was flying with me, at last part of something. No longer circling in silence, he had direction, and he had chosen it. So, some people say that glyphs they're like these amazing, beautiful things that act as your companion, and they really are, but they also demand respect. It didn't happen all at once. Zyntronaut didn't suddenly rise through the ranks of my glyphs like a shooting star. It was quieter than that, subtle, like the pull of a distant planet you don't notice until you're caught in its orbit. But now, looking back, I realize Zyntronaut didn't just join my team, he changed it. It was during a rescue mission in the Ebon Folds, a place where magnetic storms mess with communication, and even the best tracking glyphs and glyphids get confused. One of the new recruits had gone missing, chasing a rogue echo type. Most of my team struggle in the storm. Aerial glyphs couldn't stay aloft. Ground glyphs lost balance, but not Zyntronaut. He synced with me before I even asked. His suit adapted to the storm's pull, counterbalancing gravity, dragging me toward the signal like a tethered meteor. When we reached the missing students, pinned beneath a fallen obelisk, Zyntronaut extended part of himself outward like a mechanical spine and lifted it off of them without a sound. He didn't do it for glory, he just did it. The students looked up at me and whispered, "Is that even a glyph?" All I could say was, "He's mine." At first, the other glyphs were unsure. Orabeak was cautious. He's proud and territorial, and he doesn't really trust easily. Shadowclaw disappeared for 2 days after Zyntronaut's second full merge, jealous, I think, of how fluid our sync had become. Even Lumapup, the gentlest of my team, barked nervously for the first time. Zyntronaut extended his arms like wings to shield her from a Velburst. But then came the Ashfang incident. A fire had broken out near the Twisting Vine outpost. The air was thick with smoke and Vel backlash, and the local terrain kept collapsing into itself. I released 3 glyphs, Lumapup to track the pulses, Shadowclaw to scout shadows, and Zyntronaut to stabilize us. When a sinkhole swallowed half of the cliff, Zyntronaut caught all of us. He deployed gravitational anchors in 4 directions, saving my team from plummeting into molten ash. Shadowclaw flickered back into view after that, and for the first time ever nuzzled his beak against Zyntronaut's core. Zyntronaut isn't my strongest attacker. He's not built for brute strength, like Hogsworn, or speed, like Nightmaw. But he is without question the heart of my team now. He stabilizes terrain during battle. He shares passive energy with nearby allies when they're weak. His internal radar can detect danger seconds before it strikes. And when morale is low, he emits a soft hum that somehow makes the air feel safe. He's not just a glyph, he's a constant. A living reminder that connection isn't always about roaring power or flashing attacks. Sometimes it's about the one who steadies you when you falter. I don't summon Zyntronaut anymore just for missions. Sometimes I call him just to sit with me on the rooftop of my pyramid house and watch the moons shift across the sky. Because they do sometimes shift. They don't come down from the sky, but they do shift in like different positions sometimes. So he hums in response to the starlight for a song, not words, but something deeper, something ancient, like the heartbeat of space itself. Zenna once teased me, "You know you talk to him in your sleep, right?" I didn't deny it, because sometimes even when the world is quiet, Zyntronaut listens, and when I wake up from dreams I don't remember, I find him floating beside my bed, silent, still steady. Reaperfish still sleeps beneath the sanctuary. I check on him often. He's happier now, peaceful. But Zyntronaut, he's with me always. When the call comes from distant kingdoms or strange pockets of space, when Orion hands me missions too dangerous for rookies, when the veil shifts and unknown forces rise, it's Zyntronaut I reach for first, not because he's the flashiest, but because he's the one I trust to catch me when I fall. Every team has its star, but someone has to be gravity. Someone has to hold everything together when it starts to come undone. That's Zyntronaut, and he's not going anywhere. Journal closed, but our story still orbiting. And that is this week's episode of the Monster Catcher's Journal. I hope you enjoyed, and please come back next week for the next episode. That is how I caught Zyntronaut. Next week, I don't know if it'll be about a glyph or not. It might be about one of my missions that I took on that didn't involve a glyph at all. We'll find out. Catch you next week. Stella Fair's out.